Hi, and welcome back to Nancy Ellen Quilts. Today's lesson is all about hand applique. What is hand applique? It's the process of taking one piece of fabric and attaching it to another using your thread, just using your stitches, not using any other extraneous methods, no gluing and no sewing machines, no freezer paper. Okay, so the first design I'm going to work with is appliquing a heart onto a background. And in the example that you're looking at, there's a striped fabric appliqued to a blue background. Okay, so let's get started over here on the workboard. Using my sandpaper board, I have a 6-inch background. And to align the heart in the center, I'm going to start by folding it in half and thumb pressing it right down the center. This was a pre-cut stitch square, so I could be prepared. So I finger press down the center. Take your pre-cut heart, which was made out of your template plastic. Template plastic is a great tool to use to make all of your applique designs. It's one of the methods I'm going to talk about, and it's a great place to start. So lining up your heart in the center, down that crease. This is the outie lining up with the line, and the innie lining up with the crease this way. This is the innie, this is the outie. Using a General's chalk pencil, so it's non-permanent. Remember, always use non-permanent markers on the top of all your fabrics because you want them to disappear. I'm going to draw a guideline all around the fabric, all around the template, and I'm going to use that later for my applique guideline. I'm going to remove the heart, and you can see I have the design on the background. Alright, next part is we're going to make the applique. The heart. Remember in this example, the heart was created from a striped fabric. Alright, well in this case we're going to use yellow today. I have this bright yellow fabric which is a light color, so I cannot use my chalk pencil from General's. I have to use a blue water erasable marker so I know that these lines will disappear. Holding it in place, and trace the outside again of that heart. Using my water erasable pen. This is the thick version and this is the thinner version. They both work wonderfully, and they will erase with water just a spritz when you're done. Oops, and there's my heart. You can see that just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to cut this out. This is going to be attached to the background. And I'm going to cut away from that line about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch away. It does not have to be exact. That line is your guideline for applique. You want to cut away from that, so you use that. I'm using my sharp applique scissors. They're short and they're really great to work with when you're doing applique. These are about 4 inches with a nice sharp point. And so here is the applique piece that we're going to attach to the green background. Bring in my green background again, and this is how they're going to get attached. Here are my little applique pins. I also have them in a Jenna Kimball version. They're short in length. They're about 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to use these little pins and align them with my background guideline. So I'll start by putting a pin in the bottom, and I'm going to make sure it lines up with the chalk pencil guideline on my background fabric. I'm just going to move it up a little bit so it lines up, and I'm going to pin that. I'll use another little pin, and I'm going to line it up into the innie, and I'm going to make sure that lines up with the innie of my guideline. Now you have a lot of flexibility here where your applique heart is going to be, because it doesn't matter if it's a little bit off, but when you do something a little bit more complicated, a little more complex, you're going to want everything to be just so. If you can look at these applique flowers, then you can see that every petal really has to be in a particular place. This leaf has to be here, these petals have to lie right in a particular place, so they have to be exact. And this is a great example of applique, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that later. I'm going to add a few more pins to stabilize our piece. Once you add the pins, you could also baste, which is a big loose stitch just inside, but I'm not going to baste this today. And those little flowers I showed you before, I don't baste those either. They just get a little bit of pin, and then they get appliqued. So now you see we're ready to begin the applique. So using my straw needles are thin needles. You can see that on the green background. It's a thin needle and it's very long, and I prefer this to do all my hand applique because I use a needle turn method, which I talked about earlier. And because it's so long, my fingers can grab it easily, and I can use it to provide leverage to really turn the fabric under. I have here my needle threaded with my silk thread. I can't say enough about silk thread. It's my favorite to do all my applique because it is so thin and so strong, it blends right into the fabrics. Actually, I have here an assortment of lovely silks and another brand called Aurifil. And I just want to share this with you that if you're looking to do your applique, these are my favorites. The Aurifil is a 2-ply thread, also blends directly in, it's 100% cotton, and these are an assortment of silks that I carry. Alright, back to applique. There's 3 parts you want to learn and concentrate on. There's the point on the end, you want to learn the curve, you want the straightaway, and actually the 4th part you want to learn is the innie, and this is what I refer to as the innie area. Some of my students call it the cleavage. I'm going to start here on the edge. Alright, I'm going to take the needle, starting on the top, and there's a knot in my thread. I'm right-handed. I'm going to begin by turning it under, right to that blue guideline on top, and you can see it lines up with the white guideline right behind it. Can you see that? And as I hold it there with my thumb, I'm going to come from the back only this first time, just so the knot is in the back. And now I'm going to just turn a little bit, and only turn as needed. Coming under, can you get a close-up of this? My needle's coming under the yellow, and just to the very, very edge. I'll leave it right there so you can see that. To the very, very edge of the yellow fabric. And then I can pull that through. This is the needle turn method. Doesn't require any extra glue or prior ironing. Just take small stitches and go, one at a time. You see I'm coming from behind the yellow, and I'm getting just the very, very edge of the yellow on the top. And I'm not going to do this whole thing, but I'm going to show you a bunch of stitches behind the yellow and the yellow, and see how beautifully this thread matches. And a very, very important point is that your thread will match your applique piece. You're not going to choose a green thread for a yellow applique. Make sure your thread matches, and that's why you want a big collection like this. So every one of your colors will match whatever you're appliquing. So this is how you handle a straight edge. You just tuck as you go, looking at your top guideline. I'm going to take this pin out of the way. Matching your guidelines. Just needle turn. Catching the green in the back. Turning it under. Catching the very, very edge. I'm just going to applique this right down to the point. Yeah, once you practice, you'll get into a groove. You'll be able to go a little bit faster. And we have to figure out how to handle that point at the end. And you see what I just did is I straightened it out so that line follows all the way down to the point. And I'm going to continue appliquing right to the very end.